Robert, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Robert, you got us a good adventure story tonight?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I can't wait. The floor is yours.
Well, I don't know about good adventure, but it was my adventure.
Good.
I'm down here on the Rio Grande on the Mexican border, and how I got here was from Kansas City. About the year 2000, I quit my job. Well, I pretty much got fired, but I sold everything, threw everything in my canoe, told the whole world to F off, and I'm gone. I put it in on the Missouri River, right there in downtown Kansas City, and I paddled my canoe on down to the Mississippi, and then I paddled the Mississippi on down to the mouth of the Merrimack, and then I paddled up the Merrimack, and then I carried my stuff about 33 miles to the Current River, and then I went down the Current, down the Black, down the White, back into the Mississippi in lower Arkansas, and then right above Baton Rouge, I cut through the swamps near this, it's called the Chaffalaya Cut. And I took that Chaffalaya Cut on into the Chaffalaya Lake, and then I paddled into the Intercoastal Waterway system there in southern Louisiana, and paddled the Intercoastal on into Texas. And right there at Corpus Christi, I paddled up the Nueces River. And by now it's wintertime. You know, I left in the summer, and by now it's winter. So it's cold as hell. And I make it up to a town called Cotulla, I don't know, Carrizo Springs area, and I'm like, well, hell, my vision, I'm trying to make it to the Pacific Ocean just like Lewis and Clark. I said, man, my dumb ass, I'm trying to go west, and I'm just looking for a spot to start over.
Listen, you almost did it. I mean, you were. This is incredible. Now, this entire journey. First of all, do you still have the canoe?
Oh yeah. No, I eventually made it to the Pacific, and it took me 2 years.
And you were able to
made it. I paddled. I carried my stuff to the Rio Grande or Eagle Pass. I paddled up the Rio Grande to Presidio, and then I started walking. I had this portage cart that I put my canoe on, and I started walking through the desert, through Marfa, all the way through El Paso, all the way up into New Mexico to Silver City, New Mexico, and then I put my canoe back out on the Gila River. And then I paddled the Gila into Arizona, and then the river dried up on me, so I had to put my stuff back on my portage cart and continue on west on Highway 10 on into California, and I dropped right in San Diego at La Jolla Beach, and that's where I hit the Pacific Ocean right there at La Jolla Beach. Then I started paddling up the Pacific to the Bay or Delta area, and I paddled up the Sacramento River, up into Shasta Lake. I smoked everybody's weed. I hung out there for a while. Then, spring was starting to break again, so I went ahead and walked across the Oregon with my canoe on my portage cart to the Columbia River. Then I paddled up the Columbia, up the Snake, up the Clearwater to Lewiston-Clarkston area, right where Lewis and Clark had crossed at Lolo Pass. And then I crossed over into Montana and put in just below the Great Falls of Montana back on the Missouri River, and then I paddled all the way back down to where I started in Kansas City. And then I started getting job offers. It changed my whole life forever. I was a construction worker before. I was a nobody. I was just a dude. I felt like Forrest Gump, man. I just headed out.
Robert, that's exactly what I'm seeing in my head. It's the canoe version of Forrest Gump. And
exactly. Yeah.
and it's incredible to me because I know a lot of truck drivers. I know people who are very well traveled. It's part of their job or it's a passion, and they can talk to you about highways, highways and routes. They can get from one part of the country to the other without even needing. They don't need a map. They don't need anything. They just know these routes. The fact that you're talking to me about rivers like I would talk to a local around here about the I-95 or 287 or 684 or something like that, it's just incredible how let me ask you this: is it? I mean, it almost seems like you can get anywhere by river in a canoe. I mean, can you literally get anywhere by canoe?
That's how it was, brother. That's how everybody did it. And that's what really got me going. It's like, 100 years ago, this is how people did it.
How long did this trip take you?
2 years.
2 years to get from Kansas City all the way back to Kansas City. You went all the way down. You went down there.
Yep.
You through Texas, Mexico, the Pacific. You did the Lewis and Clark route, and then you went all the way up through the Pacific Northwest and back down again. Dropped back onto it. How did you survive that time? Was it by the good graces of just people around you? Did you have some money saved up? Did you do odd?
Man, I was a broke joke. I literally had less than $500 to my name, and I was like, well, I'll just figure it out as I go. And then everywhere I went, I would have people wanting to feed me, wanting to help me. They'd give me advice. No, you should go this way and not that way. And when I hit the Rio Grande, I bumped into a team working for, they were writing a book for National Geographic. And the guy that was guiding that team said, man, I don't care whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. If you ever run out of money, just give me a call. And he helped me, every once in a while he'd send me $100 or something and say, keep going, don't stop, keep going. And then, I would buy everything. Every time I come to a bridge, I would tie up and I'd walk into a town or, a convenience store or a gas station, and I'd buy all the ramen noodles and peanut butter and tortillas and jelly and a big old thing of icing, cake icing, and a big jug of Mountain Dew or, just whatever, and load down and just keep going, every 50 miles or so, you'd come across something where you can resupply, and I was a broke joke. I didn't have no money.
Well, hey, listen, bro, to talk about money, and I mean, I asked about it just because I'm wondering how you're eating along the way you're doing that stuff. But as far as man, this is the kind of experience is very hard to even think about buying. But so, would you agree? You would agree with our first caller in her assessment that, why she doesn't watch the news anymore, about how Americans, just people along the way, real people along the way, whether it's in America or maybe in some parts of Mexico you were at, that people are just really amazing and willing to help?
Exactly. You got to disconnect. And it gave me an opportunity to disconnect from the whole society, from everything. I wasn't watching the news. I didn't care.
What year was this?
I was the happiest I've ever been in my life.
What year was this? When did the 2-year journey begin? What was the year again?
2000. It was May 26, 2000.
Oh, man! So you were on the road when 9/11 happened.
Yeah. Actually, I was on this little creek in California that paralleled the Pacific Ocean. And these bridge workers yelled down at me because I was camped under the bridge with my canoe, and they're like, hey, man, you got a radio? And I'm like, yeah, I got a radio. They're like, turn it on. So I turn on the radio, and I could hear the towers crashing with this radio station. I'm like, freak, well, what the fuck? And, I had a .22 rifle. I had a shotgun. And it sounded like we was going to war. We're getting attacked, I was like, it was a weird feeling. Oh. Yeah, I was counting my bullets. I hunkered down. I found a little hidden spot and hunkered down for a couple of days and listened to the radio, just trying to figure out what's going on.
I really wonder. You're talking about a time in your life that I have to imagine is it's a big transition. for anybody to do something like that big, even though you're not, it's not the Forrest Gump kind of sensationalism out there. In Forrest Gump, he's running all around and he's attracting followers and there's cameras and all that. You are one guy out on a personal adventure, and as you're going through this transition in your own life, the entire world is transitioning with 9/11. It's a very violent birth into a new world. You were out on the road for the last of the old world to be experienced like that. And
I thought that from the very beginning, something in the back of my head was telling me, dude, take it in, because this is all going to change.
Oh yeah, a man
won't be here forever.
A strange man in a canoe under a bridge every day after 9/11 would probably draw a different kind of attention. Yeah, so
it changed my life. That's for sure. It was the biggest adventure and I'm a different guy because of it. And, now I'm down here. I worked as a river guide for a little bit, and I met some of the greatest people. It was more about the people I met, man. It's just unbelievable how nice, because in the beginning you're like hating people, and they're like, oh, the world sucks, da-da-da-da-da. But I regained my faith in humanity in big time, because everywhere I went, even the cops, everybody was just helping me, and like, even the cops would be like, you're really not supposed to be doing this, but I'm going this way. As long as you go the other direction, I didn't see nothing.
Well,
it was crazy how well people treated me. I couldn't believe it. I'd be thirsty. I'd be in the middle of the desert, dragging my canoe down I-10, and that's an interstate. I'm not even supposed to be on that damn thing, and hot. 120 degrees. It was July. I'll never forget it. July 4th, just out of nowhere, some complete stranger in this big old hoopty pickup truck stops that's loaded with a bunch of watermelons and says, here. I mean, he didn't even say here. He just walked up to me, handed me a watermelon, and drove off. And I'm like, what the hell is that all about? These are really magical encounters there. One last question for you, Robert, because I want to see if I can get a few more on before we end at 11. What was your settle down point? I hear people in the background. Is that your children? Where did you settle down, and when did you settle down for good? Well, when I got back to Kansas City, I made this call down here at the Rio Grande, because there was river guides, and they offered me a job. They're like, anytime you want, come back here and get a job. So I give them a call, and I said, you remember me? And they're like, hell yeah, come on, get your ass down here and go to work. And that's Terlingua, Texas. I'm down here in Big Bend. It's at the base of a national park, and so I got to kind of do my dream still, working in a national park and whatnot, and being a river guide. Do me a favor. Before we end tonight, is there any way that you can email the show, quite frankly, podcast@gmail.com? Can you email the show a picture of the canoe, or so? I want to see the canoe that has all these miles on it. Can you do that before? Yeah. No, I got video. I did all I could to document the thing. Well, send me just at least one picture that I can show off to the audience, because I'm sure everybody wants to see this canoe. All right, then Robert, and no please problem. Keep in touch. In touch too, either through future calls or through that email. And thank you for this call. Well, I watch you all the time, and I appreciate you. And I thought, well, hell, I'll give him a call. So thanks for answering my call, and I'll send you an email. I was the lucky one answering tonight, Robert. Thank you so much.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.